One of the messages sent to my son, and I quote, "I am more determined to rot your life than to make it a waste, a trash can, a shame, a dishonor, a hell, a real disaster, a hell on earth. And I remind you that I am heartless. I have no pity to rot a life as well as yours." This was one of almost 200 messages sent to my child over the span of 19 and a half hours. He was witty, thoughtful, kind, and loved chess. James was a high school senior. He wanted to major in pre-law, and he was months away from breaking a 40-year-old school record in the 110 hurdles. For nearly 20 hours, they attacked, threatened, terrorized, dismantled my child. Every time he tried to fight back and ask, "Why are you doing this to me? Please leave me alone," they escalated, sending his image to friends and family, telling him he would be labeled a pedophile, telling him his future was over, telling him you should just kill yourself. And in those last moments, my son, who had everything to live for, felt like he had no other choice.
That was Tamia Woods this morning, telling the Senate Judiciary Committee about her son, James, who she says took his own life after he was blackmailed by online sextortion predators who threatened to share his intimate photos if he did not send them money. He was 17 years old. This is from the father of 15-year-old Bryce Tate. He was a victim of sextortion. He was asked to give scammers $500 or else they would release explicit photos. His dad, Adam, telling the New York Post, quote, "My son had $30 freaking dollars, and he's like, 'Sir, I'll give you my last 30, and these cowards wouldn't take it,'" which to me speaks to the fact that these people, these criminals, don't just want money. They want the ultimate, evil aspect of this is that they're trying to take down a person. It's almost like they'd rather do that than even take the $30. Any kind of teenager, any kind of, it can happen to girls, but boys have been particularly targeted. Whether you're an athlete or an academic, these predators go online, they farm the social media. If kids have a social media profile, they find out about them, who their friends are, what they're into, and then in some of these cases, they've posed like a teenage girl and drawn them into a situation. They don't even know who they're talking to. James was obsessed with comics. He could quote every episode of the Flash TV show, and he wore an anime headband during track meets because he said it made him run faster. He was the one to beat in the men's 110-meter hurdles. One November afternoon, he was targeted online by predators who at first pretended to be a teenage girl. They tricked him into sending intimate photos, then bombarded him with more than 200 messages in less than a day, telling James to send money or risk losing everything. He took his own life. Unfortunately, James' story isn't unique. The FBI warns sextortion is exploding and young boys are being targeted constantly. From October 2021 to March 2023, federal agents received over 13,000 reports of sextortion of minors, one as young as 8 years old. At least 20 of the victims took their own lives. Yesterday, friends and family of another victim, 15-year-old Braden Boyne, celebrated as Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers signed a bill named after him into law. Braden loved to ski, play baseball, and sing loudly and off-key.
To me, it means hope. The hope that this is only the beginning of Braden's story, not the end. Hope that through him and the passing of this law, we will reach every parent in this state and further. I have hope that we will take back control from these criminals and our children will no longer be pawns in their sick games.
I'm grateful that Braden's parents get the comfort to know that this won't happen to other kids the way it happened to Braden.
It is utterly heartbreaking. And these people are not just criminals. They are vile, evil manipulators, Brian. They have a certain talent, and they use it, and they attack the most vulnerable among us, teenagers that don't even know this is coming.
So there's a couple of things. I think you got to approach it from two places. Number one, make the penalty greater. I got it. I understand that. But usually somebody with a twisted mind like that is not saying, well, I could get 7 years in prison or 12. I also think you got to educate the kids like you did with drunk driving. From day one, this is an example proportionally for second and third grade. What could happen online? This is one way it could be lured in. And remember, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they would bring in the stories of kids. I've killed somebody because I drank too much. It's got to be, we have to approach social media and the dangers exactly like it's drugs and alcohol. And I think that, along with what Australia is doing and saying banning social media until you're in your mid-teens, I think that's where we're heading as a civilized world.
Absolutely right. We actually have some tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children regarding sextortion victims. We want to get to this right away before we continue with the topic. The blackmailer is not to blame, not you. The blackmailer is to blame, not you. You can report all of this via accounting the platform safety, so let people know this is happening. Block the suspect, the person after you. Do not delete the profile or the messages, because that can help law enforcement if they're trying to catch a blackmailer. And visit takeitdown, NCM, etc.org, so that the organization can help you get your images or your teenager, your child's images removed from the internet.
You know, listen, there cannot be enough protection for these kids who are online. They're being preyed upon by, they're innocent. They don't even realize what's happening before they're down that rabbit hole, if you will. And then you have Governor Evers, who's doing a great job signing Brady's Law, which is going to create new penalties for these evil people preying on these innocent children. And this will provide some compensation to the families, the victims' families, from the DOJ. Now, of course, everybody would trade any money, all the money in the world, to have their child back. But I hope that Governor Evers' move is an example for more to follow, more penalties, put them underneath the jail.
Make no mistake about it, these kids, they're just beginning their lives, right? And when I sit back and think about, okay, I'm all about prevention, I think that's a great idea. But now we are also aiding and abetting in killing childhood. These kids are not going to have a childhood increasingly because we're warning them about everything. We're educating them about things that are truly disturbing. I was talking to a friend of mine about just simple suicide prevention tips for young people. And I thought, wow, at that age, if somebody had told me that people commit suicide at that age, I wouldn't have known what to think. So, I mean, I believe that we have to pursue a lot of these remedies, but there are other implications of that as well.
Yeah, I have one more quote I want to get to. This is from the father of 15-year-old Bryce Tate. He was a victim of sextortion. He was asked to give scammers $500 or else they would release explicit photos. His dad, Adam, telling the New York Post, quote, "My son had $30 freaking and he's like, sir, I'll give you my last 30, and these cowards wouldn't take it." Which to me speaks to the fact that these people, these criminals, don't just want money. They want the ultimate evil aspect of this is that they're trying to take down a person. It's almost like they'd rather do that than even take the $30 or the $500 or whatever they're trying to get.
Yes, they're using the most cruel and manipulative tactics imaginable because they know that's what is most effective, unfortunately. And they're targeting boys because, once you start sending boys nudes, they send them right back. And, these are the conversations that parents of teenagers have to have with their kids, and it sucks. But you have to check in with them always about their mental health. You have to talk to them even when they are pushing you away and don't want to have those conversations. You have to look them in the eye every day and really have a solid check-in. And you have to talk to them about their devices and things like this and what is possible in a world where there is pure evil. And that's what these criminal gangs are doing. They are with pure evil, exploiting the vulnerabilities of kids who are in the throes of a generational mental health crisis. And they know that. They know they are the easiest targets and the softest targets and the ones that are most willing to part with any money that they have in order to maintain their dignity and anonymity. And it's absolutely abhorrent. But the good news is I've talked to some of these Homeland Security agents, and this is their work day in and day out. They find these predators. They have these conversations. They pose as adolescent boys and girls and try and start these conversations and get the predators talking and sending first, because once they do that, they know that they can tag them for 10 years in federal prison, which, there were a pair of brothers from Nigeria.
Nigerian brothers,
Yes.
Samuel and Samson Ogashidi.
Yeah, and they got 17 years in prison apiece. It's not enough because it is murder. They know what they're doing. They're goading people into suicide using this hideous manipulation. But as parents, we are the first line, and we have to be a little bit more aggressive in how we're playing defense on behalf of people. You know, they seem tough, but teenagers still very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, stellar points on both counts and highlighting the fact that many of these predators are international. They're not even on American soil, and sometimes there's a lot of work to bring them to justice. And as you mentioned, kudos to Homeland Security and the FBI and everyone working on that. Well, I want to highlight the victims a little bit because this can happen to any kind of teenager, any kind of, it can happen to girls, but boys have been particularly targeted. Whether you're an athlete or an academic, these predators go online, they farm the social media. If kids have a social media profile, they find out about them, who their friends are, what they're into, and then in some of these cases, they've posed like a teenage girl and drawn them into a situation. They don't even know who they're talking to.